What's up, everybody, and welcome to week 6 of the Illuminerdi's post-credits MCU recap show. My name is Richard Nebbins. You can follow me on Twitter at @rnebbins. And holy crap, do we have an episode of WandaVision to talk about this week for WandaVision Weekly. We've got episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall is the title. And boy, is that an appropriate title, because we're going to get into it right now, and we've got some stuff to talk about. When we left off last week, we saw Wanda and Vision, kind of going their separate ways a little bit after their sort of fight. Billy and Tommy and Wanda and Pietro were all hanging out of the Halloween thing before Vision tries to exit the hex, and then Wanda, of course, expands the hex to apparently what is now 8 miles outside of Westview, and boy, do we have some stuff to go off of after this week. We start off this week. This week is the last of the sitcom-based episodes, likely the last of the sitcom-based episodes. We've got some Modern Family and Office themes this week, which is absolutely amazing. The most recent shows to come out in this WandaVision tribute. We've gotten the I Love Lucy stuff in the 50s, the Bewitched stuff in the 60s, Partridge Family in the 70s, Roseanne in the 80s, and so on. Malcolm in the Middle, obviously, for the last one. And now we get to go into the Office and Modern Family style. So Wanda's in bed trying to relax, trying to get over everything that happened last night. When Billy and Tommy come in, they are starting to complain to her that their video game is starting to go haywire. It changes from, just a regular old video game to a Nintendo 64 to joysticks to Uno cards. Tommy's saying his head feels weird, kind of connecting back to the fact that he has very similar to Wanda's powers, where you can see stuff in his head, and he's got the whole telekinesis thing going. And then Wanda basically explains in her next Modern Family style interview that she is taking a quarantine style vacation just for herself, because that'll show her. She wakes up, throws off the covers. This is also after realizing the Vision still isn't there, and she is still in her Halloween costume from the other night, meaning that she is super just feeling messed up. She can't believe what happened. And then we go into the opening theme of the song, which this one is the first one that doesn't have any lyrics to it, because they totally replicate the theme song from The Office. The do 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 WandaVision. Excuse my horrible singing, even though I went to music school. So then we go back out to the real world, where we see Hayward and his team in the sword facility. It's 8 miles outside of Westview, like I was mentioning earlier. And apparently at this point, the broadcast signal has gone dead. There's no signal, dead air. And Hayward is about to launch something today, and he has just gone absolutely berserk, absolutely insane. He is hell-bent on taking Wanda down, by any means necessary. And then we go back inside, and Vision, after being revived, brought back to life by Wanda again, being inside the hex, he wakes up near this gigantic carnival, and there's all these clowns going around. He's confused by everything. And then he sees Darcy, who got sucked into the hex after the last episode. And she is apparently the escape artist, in this show. Vision comes up to her and he's like, "You don't remember me from last night?" Then he starts chasing her. And then they go back into Wanda's house with her, Billy, and Tommy. And the kids are mentioning how Vision isn't there, obviously. Wanda's basically just saying, if he doesn't want to be here, there's nothing I can do about it. And then Billy and Tommy mentioned the whole Pietro thing from the last episode, where he says, it's not like your dead husband could die twice. And Wanda is convinced at this point, as I'm sure the fans are, that Pietro is not who he says he is. She assures the kids that Pietro is not their uncle. Then she basically just starts freaking out. She's saying, even as your mom, I'm expected to have all the answers. But I don't have any answers. Zero, zilch, nada, niente. So she is starting to believe that everything is meaningless. She is basically losing her mind at this point. Things have gotten so crazy inside this reality that she's created that she just doesn't even know what to do. And then of course I love one of my favorite funny moments of the episode is when she's talking in her next interview and she says Vision is made of vibranium. They literally inherited tough skin when she's talking about the kids. And then of course Agnes comes over in the nick of time. Wanda just opens the door up for her because she just doesn't even care at this point. And then she tries to send the kids off with Agnes, or Agnes tries to take the kids to give Wanda a little bit of me time. And then Agnes gets another one of those little interviews where she says, I actually did bite a kid once, when Wanda says, she doesn't bite. And then Agnes is really, really starting to give off some seriously creepy vibes in this episode, but we will get to that a little bit later. We go outside of the Hex again with Jimmy and Monica driving away from the border of the Hex, and then they managed to get the files that Darcy sent to them after she cracked into Hayward's firewall, and apparently there is this thing called Codename Cataract and a bunch of R&D reports. And apparently this whole thing was director Tyler Hayward trying to bring Vision back online after he died in Avengers Infinity War. And then apparently nothing worked until Wanda stole his body from the sword facilities. So it's clear as day that Hayward is bad news bears. They're going to have to figure out something to do to stop him from whatever he's doing. But apparently we will find that out at a later date, what exactly Hayward is up to. They reached Monica's contact on the outside, who turned out to be this woman named Major Goodner, who apparently worked with Monica's mother, Maria. As Monica said, my mother would appreciate your loyalty. And Goodner has brought this giant sword rover. It's a space rover that they're going to use to try to get into the Hex. And it's apparently the biggest and most powerful one that they have. And then we go back into Wanda and Darcy, Vision and Darcy, talking at the carnival. And, Vision's saying, you tried to help me, because he noticed her outside the Hex. And Darcy's, is still in her crazy carnival mind, says, doubtful, I'm notoriously self-involved. But then Vision is able to distract Darcy for a second to zap her back into her normal mind. And Darcy, tries to get a hold of herself. She's trying to get a handle of everything that's going on. And she basically explained to Vision that being inside that control sucks. We're not sure if it's Wanda or somebody else doing it, but Darcy did not enjoy it at all, clearly. She tells Vision who she is, what she's doing. They escape from the carnival act. This guy's trying to get them back in to do their act, which they're supposed to do. They steal that truck. And then the main thing that Vision is concerned about with Darcy, of course, is wondering, are his kids safe? And what in the hell is going on with the fake Pietro? Neither of which Darcy can answer right now. But then they drive off and try to get back to Vision's house. And then we go back to the house. Wanda is sitting there by herself, just eating some cereal, watching TV and everything. And everything just starts changing around her without her doing anything. She's freaking out. We see the TV change, the walls, the plants. We see the stork again from episode 3. And Wanda is basically just saying, I don't understand what's happening, why it's all falling apart, and why I can't fix it. And then this is the weird thing. She's doing that Modern Family style interview again, where normally the interviewers don't actually talk to the people that they're interviewing. But she asks, or the interviewer asks, maybe is this what she deserves? Which, of course, Wanda goes crazy with that and can't even believe it. We get our next commercial, the 6th or 5th commercial of the show. This one is a depression medication ad for something called Nexus, which, of course, if you've watched the MCU's history, specifically Avengers Age of Ultron, the Nexus is the world security hub that Tony goes to check out in Avengers Age of Ultron to try to figure out the whole Ultron thing. And we don't know if Nexus is going to come into play later. There's obviously some stuff in it with the comics, with the Doctor Strange and the whole magical mythology. But that was a very cool nod to the MCU's past, and obviously specifically to Wanda's past with that ad. And at the end of it, it says, you shouldn't take it unless you've moved on with your life. So that's going to be a really interesting little thing to pay attention to. I don't know if we're getting any more commercials in the last couple of episodes, but we will find out over the next couple of weeks. We go back to Billy and Tommy over at Agnes's house. Billy's saying to Agnes, it's quiet, and that's why he kind of likes it at Agnes's house. And he says that Agnes is quiet on the inside because he can kind of see stuff just the way Wanda can inside people. And then they're freaking out to trying to figure out if their mom is okay. And Agnes basically just tells them, "Your mom's okay. She's a super mom." So she's trying to convince them, but then she does want another one of those interviews. She says, "You try telling a 10-year-old that your mother's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs." Great ad to my favorite cereal back in the day when I was a kid. And then we go back outside. Monica is suiting up in a spacesuit to go into this rover to try to, get everything that's going on fixed inside Westview. Get Wanda in her right head, try to help her out. So then Monica drives into the Hex with this giant sword rover. And can I just say also, just as a side note, the effects in this show look absolutely amazing. I mean, this is reported as one of the highest budget TV shows in history. It seems like they've got basically the budget of a Marvel movie spread out over 9 episodes. And the effects look absolutely incredible. I mean, the way the rover was driving into the border of Westview, into the Hex, and Monica trying to escape. And then we also finally get that scene that looked like it was in a spaceship, the inside of the spaceship with all the red outside the windows from one of the earlier trailers. And that is apparently Monica driving into the Hex to try to save Wanda. Monica escapes. The Hex sucks in about half of the rover, changing it into, a present-day style truck before spitting it out. And then Monica basically just decides, screw it, I'm going into the Hex myself. She just dives in, pushes her way in, and then this is where things get crazy for one Monica Rambeau. We hear a bunch of dialogue, just like we did in episode 4 of all the Captain Marvel stuff for when she was a kid with her mom Maria and Captain Marvel. And then everything starts changing around her. We see the couple different versions of her from the 60s, from the 70s. And then it looks as if she is gaining her superpowers that she uses when she turns into Photon, the superhero that Monica Rambeau changes into in the comics, and that she's confirmed to be for Captain Marvel too. So I think this episode just gave us Monica Rambeau's origin story. She comes out, all the versions of her join together into one. Her eyes are glowing blue as she comes out of the Hex, and then she's adjusting to it. And I mean, holy hell, we got a Monica Rambeau origin story within WandaVision. And I cannot wait to see where that goes. So then after that, we go back to Darcy and Vision driving in the truck. And Darcy's trying to explain to Vision what his life was before Westview. She's kind of recapping the events of Infinity War, saying that he died and Thanos brought him back to life with a time stone. Then he died again and Wanda had to watch everything. And then during all that, we get another little Office reference. The Vision looks directly into the camera, just the way John Krasinski's Jim Halpert always did in The Office. And that was just incredible. We get another Vision interview saying that he's noticing that he and Darcy are getting stopped a lot on their way home, and he thinks Wanda is trying to stop him from getting home for some reason. And then he recaps everything himself. He's, mentions how he was originally Jarvis, that his corporeal form was born from Ultron's plan for genocide. And then Darcy, of course, mentions to him that she's been watching everything from the outside. She sees this show as WandaVision, which, roll credits. That was a great moment there. But she's just mentioning that she believes that Wanda and Vision are meant for each other, that they belong together. Then we go back to Wanda taking some pills when at her house, probably those Nexus pills that were in the commercial, honestly, when Monica breaks into her house, and Wanda wants absolutely none of it. She uses her powers to push her out of the house, throw her up in the air. She mentions, Pietro and everything that's going on, and then she just tries to hurl Monica to the ground, and Monica just superhero lands on the ground with her newfound powers. And at this point, Monica is basically just daring Wanda to take her out. She mentions how Hayward's going to let Westview just burn to the ground to get what he wants, and that that Wanda can't let him make her the villain. But then she says maybe she already is, which of course this series has been teasing Wanda going full villain for a little while. And I mean, this is just another way that this series is getting absolutely crazy. Agnes is, of course, watching everything happen from her window at her house. Monica explains to Wanda about the pain that she's been feeling, of course, losing her mom and finding out about it so long after it happened, with the snap and everything. And then Agnes tries to get Wanda away before Monica tries to tell her to take the hex down and fix everything. And Wanda basically just says, don't make me hurt you. And then, of course, we go back to Vision and Darcy. There's more road work happening. And then there's just a bunch of kids that start walking in front of them. Clearly, somebody is trying to stop Vision from getting back to Wanda. And we get another interview with Vision. And then by the end of it, he's just like, what am I doing here? Why am I sitting here talking to you? I've got to get home to my wife. So he leaves. He takes off that little mic and knocks the boom mic out of the way before he flies out of the car, leaving Darcy alone. And she's just like, okay, all right. I can totally get back myself. Kat Dennings in this series has been absolutely hysterical. She's gotten much more to work with in this series than she has in either of the Thor movies that she's been in. And I'm really excited to see how Darcy finishes up. But anyways, this is where everything gets really crazy. We go back to Wanda at Agnes's house. She's checking everything out, trying to check on the kids. She notices there's sandwiches in front of the TV. There's shows on TV. And then there's that little fly drone in the curtains, which that is one of many references to the Marvel supervillain Mephisto, which is laid out in this episode. There's a couple more that I'll explain in a bit. And then she asks where the kids are. Agnes said they're probably playing around in the basement. So, of course, Wanda goes down to the basement. And this is where things get super, super creepy. Everything is dark. There's a bunch of branches growing on the walls and everything. And she's basically walking into what looks like a witch's lair. And then there's these little emblems that kind of resemble Mephisto again, just like that fly did. And Mephisto has been referenced more than a few times, both through this series. We saw it in the Loki trailer from the Disney Plus, Disney Investors Day. And Mephisto may be coming along later, but we get, after that, the full villain reveal for WandaVision. Wanda hears some clattering in the background, and Agnes comes up and basically says, you didn't think you were the only magical girl in town, did you? And she said, the name's Agatha Harkness. Lovely to finally meet you. So Agnes has officially revealed herself to be Agatha Harkness, just as reports have rumored for weeks. I mean, rumors have been pointing to Agnes being Agatha Harkness basically since episodes 1 and 2 premiered. And then we get this whole song and dance number from Kathryn Hahn as Agnes. And can I just say, Kathryn Hahn plays an excellent, excellent bad guy. So we get all these reveals of what she's been doing this entire series. Walking up to Wanda's house in the first place with the plant, affecting everything at the magic show, messing with Herb, messing with Pietro, or who we think is Pietro, because that is sure as hell not Pietro, but we'll get to that later. And then she's doing basically what Wanda can do to everybody else, just going inside her head with the purple magic instead of the red. And she ends everything by saying that she was the one who killed Sparky. So she is going to have to go down horribly, in flames, because she killed a puppy. We get the evil cackle at the end of the episode before the please stand by thing comes up, which is obviously always the worst part of WandaVision. And then the best thing about this episode is we get our first post-credit scene, which I got to talk about on post-credits for the Illuminerdi. Check us out. So anyway, the post-credit scene for this one is Monica walking up to Agnes's house, trying to figure out what's going on. She's looking for Wanda. She's looking for the kids. She finds a hatch into their basement, into that lair. And then fake Pietro comes up and he basically says, Snooper's going Snoop. You see Monica's eyes glow blue, and that is basically the end of the episode. So my overall thoughts on this episode is it maybe wasn't the best episode of WandaVision, but it sure as hell gave us the most reveals, the most surprise moments. We get an Agatha Harkness reveal as the main villain, which has been theorized for weeks, like I mentioned. And we are in for a crazy, crazy run for the end of the season. In terms of some of my favorite acting performances, I loved the way Elizabeth Olsen, has played Wanda again this episode. Totally embodying the modern day sitcom, with Modern Family and The Office and everything. And I loved just the way that she is just going nuts. And she portrayed it so well with the kids, with Agnes, with everything. I love Vision again. Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen have absolutely carried this series. They've done a fantastic job with their acting, with the storytelling, playing Wanda and Vision. And it's been absolutely fantastic so far. We got a couple more trailer moments in this episode, like I mentioned before, with Monica going into the Hex, realizing that big red glow outside of her rover. And we are in for an absolutely crazy last 2 weeks of the show. We're probably finished off with the sitcom-based episodes, and the last 2 episodes are probably going to go full Marvel MCU adventure. I have no idea what's going to happen because we have so much to pay attention to. We've got Hayward to look at. We have Agatha Harkness's plan to look at. We still have to get Wanda and Vision connected back up to try to figure out what's going on and save the day. But like I keep saying, we are in for a wild ride to finish off this season. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this 6th episode of WandaVision Weekly, post-credits for the Illuminerdi, and I cannot wait to see where this show takes us the final 2 weeks before it comes to an end. Thank you guys so much. Again, follow me at rnebbins on Twitter. Check out the Illuminerdi. We've got articles there every single day on WandaVision, on plenty of other stuff, and I cannot wait to be back with you guys next week. I'll see you then.
Am I right?